now I am inviting the cast, the beautiful, wonderful cast of The Phoenix Too Frequent to pop on. We are chatting today with Phoebe González and Tyler Meredith and Christopher Sheard. Welcome. Thank you for being here, friends.
Thank you.
I know each of your apartments. And I think Phoebe and Tyler are in opposite rooms in one apartment. So, and we might get a visit from a dog. Maybe I see a crate in the corner because I always want to see the pets.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. Thank you for joining us. Will there be more Christopher Fry in our future? I'd love to see APT do an uncut version of The Ladies Not for Burning. Okay, that's interesting. Let's start with, I'd love for you to introduce yourselves, say what you're playing, maybe say where you're from and whether you've been with us before. Can we start with that? I'll pop it to Tyler and then you popcorn it to somebody else.
Great. I'm Tyler Meredith and I'm playing Doto. This is my first season at APT. I'm so thrilled to be here. And I am originally from Arkansas, but I'm based out of Chicago now. How about Mr. Chris Sheard?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris. I live in Chicago currently, born and raised in Florida, and this is my 5th season. Phoebe, what do you have to say?
Oh, thank you, Chris. I'm Phoebe. I am from New York originally, Washington Heights specifically, and I am currently living in Chicago as well. And this is my 3rd season at APT. And that's my dog.
Perfect. That's something we wouldn't get if we were all sitting in the touchstone. More's the pity. I'm a dog person. But as to our first question, who has had any experience with Christopher Fry? Yeah. So I saw this play. Colleen Madden played Dynamene maybe 15 years ago or more in Milwaukee and thought it was charming. And it's always sort of been on our short list because, as we've talked to our audience before, a 3-character play for the touchstone with this kind of poetry and language and classical themes. And we were like, we'll do that play someday. And Brenda shared it with Kira, the director, and prefaced it with, okay, this play isn't going to change the world, but it's weird and wonderful. And it was meant to be in the 2020 season. And then we moved it forward to be able to share it with you this season. So what was if this is your first Fry, what has your experience been with himself? Phoebe, you can wait till you have quiet, but you can, I share this story sometimes about She Stoops to Conquer, which you were wonderful in. And the first rehearsal, you're being like, oh, this is funny. Cause I read this on my own and I was like, okay. This play can be pretty dense. How was everybody's first dig in at it?
It's not that I, especially coming off of having done She Stoops to Conquer, where I fully carry, I think even before the first day of rehearsal was like, yeah, like I'll happily do this play, but I don't understand what's wrong about it. I was able to come in with like more faith, right? And I was just like, able to read it, I think, a little more closely and see, maybe like have a firmer grasp of like how poetic devices are actually very funny when you're able to make them work in your mouths. But this was absolutely my first exposure to Fry. And now it's funny that whoever was in the chat brought up The Ladies Not for Burning, because this play and Ladies Not for Burning share a lot of the same themes and a lot of the same like buoyancy of language, and at the heart is about like this very intense sudden connection between two people that doesn't feel logically like it should track, but somehow it does.
I'm going to ask Chris Sheard, who's played Romeo for us. And so this is rife. It's not just, I can think of a million plays that the central story is, what? You? In this moment? So how about you, Sheard and Fry and Romeo?
Yeah.
You fall in love like in 30 seconds. in every
so
play.
quick. Yeah, it's so quick, right? um, yeah, and to make sense of it, there's we're always starting with like where someone's coming from, and I think the sort of similarities between how Tegeus starts to play and someone like Romeo starts to play, there's kind of similar, like they're not in a great headspace, or like things aren't going well in their lives. There's something missing, and then they happen upon someone that changes their world. Um, but in terms of Christopher Fry stuff, along with that, there's like all this stuff going on. You're like, why are we're here, and then we like go over here, and then we're like out and we're playing baseball now. We stopped doing a play a minute ago. Like it's just kind of all over the place, and it's so charming in that I'm a big fan of how many tangents these characters go on, and we can sort of yes and it by every character's state of being when they start the play. Like, of course they're speaking this way and going all over the place because two of them haven't had anything to eat in 2.5 days and are thinking they're getting ready to pass on. And this other guy is coming from, potentially one of the worst nights of his life. So we're sort of trying to yes and Christopher Fry as much as possible.
I think that's really illuminating, but I also, and each of you, the language is very different for each of these characters, which I think is wonderful. And Shakespeare does that all the time too. You're doing a Henry IV and he Poins talks one way and Quickly talks another way, and certainly Hal talks one way, and he uses very different types of poetry in the mouths of these characters. And I'd love for Tyler to speak to that a little bit, who opens the play all on her own because Phoebe is not participating anyway, although you're decorating the stage very nicely. But Tyler, you start that thing. You've got to get that ball rolling, and it's so new to our ears.
Yeah, I think it's a really unique opportunity to be allowed to be a clown at any moment with heightened language. That always has excited me so much. And I think with this show, the structure of it is so exciting because I often joke that, I am given this opportunity to do a type 5. So like a little stand up in order to kind of adjust and help everyone come into the world. And it kind of feels like sometimes that I'm the little like river Styx boat kind of carrying the audience along with me. I'm like, just come see this play, it's going to be fine. And I think it really, you really have to tune our own ears to it, and make sure we have complete clarity with it, because it's so dense and so thick, but the audiences have such wonderful ears and are so adept to hearing shows like this here that it's unbelievable how much they pick up. And it's so exciting to see the poetry kind of sing, and especially with Doto, she's very very unique. But it's incredible that all three of us kind of live in our own worlds and then come together in this like really beautiful secular thing.
I would love to dig in a little more, because we did do a conversation with Ursula Myers about who is our voice and text coach on this play, and Kira, who does all kinds of plays, including dense poetic plays, and just directed Doll's House for us. And she's she's just a great moment-to-moment director who also loves language. But here at APT, we have a coach on every project. So do you mind sharing a little bit about how your work was with Ursula? Phoebe will get, if it's quiet there, how are you doing?
It's quiet. Yes. Thank you for talking. Yeah. Well, so, as is the case with any APT production and rehearsal process, Ursula, our vocal coach, was there every day in rehearsal, only stepping out if like Chris and I were working like the middle section of the play where Tyler is asleep behind the plinth, to work with Tyler on some language, like it would be scheduled sometimes that way. And then we might have a vocal session after a full day of rehearsal, after we've taken a dinner break and come back. And it really varied like what we would cover with Ursula, depending on what kind of day we'd had or what like we as actors felt we needed. So sometimes I could come to Ursula and be like, my jaw is so tight after all the words I had to force out of it for 5 hours today. Can you help me with some exercises for that? And sometimes Ursula would be like, I have pages and pages and pages of notes. Let's talk through all of them. Or sometimes she'd be like, here are pages of notes. You look at them whenever you want. How are you feeling? So it really did sort of run the gamut. But she was so passionate about the play, as well as being so skilled in her area of expertise, that it made it, if I was like feeling exhausted at the end of a day or like doubtful, because sometimes it really felt like we were, or I can only speak to my experience, in the muck of like, what is this play going to be? Getting into a room that was like separate from the potential pressure of like, okay, we're making it now, and just getting to sit with, okay, that's antithesis. Okay, how do we play that without playing antithesis? Could be really rejuvenating and refreshing.
Cool. Hey, Chris Sheard, you've worked with
Hi.
coaches before with us.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ursula's fantastic, and I just wanted to plug her. If you've seen the play already, but are coming back to the Touchstone or going to be on site, highly recommend take a second to go over to the wall by concessions and take a look at her display. She created that, Ursula, our voice and text person, created that a display of some examples of poetic devices that are used in the play, and it's just an interesting little presentation on wordplay, or little documents posted up about wordplay and like where you can find them and hunt for them.
I think we did. I have that at home. Actually, some of I haven't heard of, and some of I was like, "Well, that's delicious. I didn't know that was a thing," but of course it is.
Yeah,
and to be able to point it out and say, "Here's why that playwright may have chosen that device there." And some of them we know that there's some beautiful examples of alliteration in that. And then there's one I can't remember what it's called, but it's just when something is pleasing to your ear. That when there are certain sounds together, it's what your line, Chris, when you're talking about where you're from. About the
it buries its back in beechwood, and it's yeah.
And then there's something about water. What's that line? It's where you're from, and I shouldn't put you on the spot. See the play and you'll see it when Chris talks about where he's from. But there's just a pleasing array of sounds that come out of your mouth.
Sudden melodious escape of the young river, where it breaks from nosing through the cresses and kingcups. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a word for that, not just, boy, Chris is really good at talking, and Chris is really good at talking. Tyler, have you worked with a coach this intimately, or with this many sessions on a play before?
I have. I mean, I think anytime I've worked on a classical piece or anything with heightened text, I have. But it even listening to Chris and Phoebe talk about this, I was like, how amazing to be this far along in our careers, and then I learned so many things from Ursula that I was like, that's the word for that? Like, I've gone this long and I didn't know. She just had such a wealth of knowledge, and I felt so lucky, since I do take a snooze for a portion of the show, to be able to spend hours with her. Like, there were a couple of days where we were like, let's just spend 2.5 hours together. And that's just invaluable and gives us such great confidence, like Phoebe was saying, to then be able to go back and put all the pieces together. And I still find things that I didn't find a month ago. I'm like, oh, that's that alliteration, things pop, or it's really exciting.
I'm excited to see it again this week. We have a question from Jennifer. Is this the first live play for each actor since the pandemic started? And how does it feel to be back on stage in front of an audience? I'd love to hear from all of you about that.
It is and it isn't. The last play that I did was at Forward Theater in Madison, 46 Plays for America's First Ladies. And we had a run in that we rehearsed entirely in masks, and then we took them off the day before there was to be an audience. And it was mainly for a filmed audience. So we had an audience in the theater that was at like 10% capacity, and it was filmed with the purpose of having a run exclusively online. So the experience of being back in a theater for the first time with like people that were not just actors happened back in May for me.
Mhm.
But man, is that not the same as like doing a full run of a play, specifically a comedy? Because so often with a comedy, you think you know what it is, and you think you know where the laughs are going to come, and then you have some previews, and then you have like a week of performances under your belt, and you're like, oh, I was right about maybe like 50% of how this play was gonna go. So getting to continually run it, and like Tyler said, continually discover, oh, that's what that section of the play is actually about, has been invaluable. And I'm just very grateful to be back.
Us too. We're going in order, Chris Sheard, so you're next.
Yes, of course.
I didn't tell you that, which I just decided. That's
I love
that's
that.
the order you are in my screen.
It's a great decision. Although Tyler, I know, I don't want to answer, but I saw Tyler do a show, so I know her answer. I'm very excited to hear her tell everyone now. Euphony, by the way, Carrie, is the smooth, pleasant.
Euphony.
I have my little euphony.
As opposed to cacophony.
Yeah.
Euphony.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, this is the first time I've been in front of an audience since the pandemic. A couple of, recorded plays for a couple of different theater companies, but and it is surprisingly not as different as I expected it to be. I think early on I was sort of struck by masks and struck by, faces and people and an audience being in a room together. I mean, that was sort of, jarring at first, but yeah, now it just sort of seems like the new normal. And I'm kind of amazed at how quickly I think as a company we adjusted, and also how our audiences have adjusted. Like, I'm not seeing a lot of like fidgeting around out there of like, oh gosh, what am I doing here? Sort of coming to the play, whatever you're coming with. And it's cool to witness.
I was a mess when I got to be in the audience for the first time. So I think, and I've heard that from our audience as well, like what the experience is the first time back seeing a play with all our anxieties, of course, and social distancing and masking inside and whatever it is. But the idea that we're here together telling a story again, both as the storytellers and those of us who get to receive the story, it's pretty, because we need each other so desperately to do this art form. So we all have that. Tyler.
Yeah.
Talk to us. Chris got us now. Our anticipation is very high.
He's very kind. And he was brilliant. I saw him in the recorded version of one of his plays, and it was amazing. Yeah, I did a show down at Theater Squared in April. And that was one of the first shows to open after the pandemic. So it was a really kind of bizarre and unique experience, and restrictions were so much tighter then, and because people were just getting vaccinated, and so that was incredible, and also a comedy, but very emotional. So to then have the experience to come work here, where I've wanted to work for casually a decade, this was such a dream, and with two people I love. It's absolutely amazing to get to make people laugh for an hour and a half. I'm like, I can't ask for anything else. It's such a gift. And to be able, how engaged like you said, you can feel that need and feel that want. So in that way, it feels a little different. But then sometimes I forget, and I'm like, oh, nothing happened. It's really incredible to kind of slide back into that.
I have Susan pop something in the Q&A that they are excited to get to see you in Steel Magnolias, Phoebe. She's about to go to Milwaukee to do that. And you said to me, and I'm happy to tell everybody that I'm 53, and you said every time I talk to a woman of a certain age, they go, oh my God, Steel Magnolias. And I am that age. I am exactly that age. And I'm with you, Susan. Oh my God, steal my donuts.
I don't think I specifically said of a certain age. I think I was specifically referencing my partner's mom and her sister. But
that's that age.
sure. I'm excited to do it. So see you there.
I will be in the audience like this. What else is, I mean, since we're talking, there's another, I'll get the other Q&A, but what's up for everybody next? And Susan also says, we saw this play twice. It was funnier, more easy to understand the second time. Always, there is some poetry that'll just go by you as you're trying to catch the story. And one of my favorite things about my job is I get to see these plays again and again and again. It's the best. And you always see and hear something new. It's really wonderful. So if you can, we also have a streaming version. So if you've seen it, and it's a really great capture. We work with HMS Media who filmed, I know I saw, Chris, your last match that you did at Writers Theater with Kira. It was brilliant. But they do a great job. So we do have that streaming version available at home if you want to take a second swing, if you haven't seen it. Or if you've seen it and want to see it again. So what's up for everybody next? We know Phoebe is going to make us all weep in an accent in Milwaukee.
I'm gonna play mini Ebenezer Scrooge again for the 4th or 5th time, I don't remember, in Chicago.
You just keep trying to get it right? Just trying to get it.
Just haven't, it's 2 scenes, man, and I just can't figure either of them out.
Can't nail it.
No.
Subtext is, there's a lot there. There's a lot there.
There's
Are
a
you
lot
doing it in
going
Madison, Children's Theater Madison?
in Chicago, at
Chicago,
Goodman.
the Goodman.
Yeah.
Who's doing
So it'll
Scrooge
be,
this year?
Larry again, Larry Yando.
Again, trying to get it right. Just
He's trying so hard. Yeah.
always digging for the truth.
Yeah.
I
Tyler,
love that
what's next?
production. I do. I love that production. It feels like Christmas to me. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, me too.
What's up for you, Tyler, next? We only have a couple more minutes, so I want to.
I am doing a show I was supposed to do in 2020, and luckily get to do next year with Timeline Theater Company in Chicago, about Leon Baxter, who was basically invented political PR companies, and no one knows about her, and she changed the scope of American politics. So I can't wait. Oh, it'll be very fun.
We have, God, it's just, well, 2 more weeks. I know we're at the end of one of this week, so we've got this week and next week to go. And I'm curious about this because I haven't actually been able to ask each of you, and Tyler and I had some time to chat today, but we have reduced sized houses, and we've got an audience in a mask for a comedy. And I talked to Jimmy DeVito about this for Iliad, and he's like, it's fine. They can be in masks. It makes me try even harder. But he had to talk to all of them. He did talk to all of them. It was part of his job. But how is the playing this in a pandemic? How's that changed for you? How's that changed your work? In any order. You're not in any order now. You can just talk at will.
I don't know that it's changed that much, which I think is amazing and speaks to the power of theater and language. The audiences are so incredibly responsive. And I think, again, it speaks so much to that need. So maybe in that way, I feel I've always had a reverence for it and feel lucky to do it as my job. But there is now a particular reverence of how much we all need this. But I think as far as comedy, I mean, I forget. I always forget that people are wearing masks because everyone has such a good time.
You can hear them laughing. I couldn't tell you're both at the same time. You're so good to each other.
I never forget that the audience is wearing masks.
Cool.
I think it's changed my work in 2 ways. One, to echo what Tyler just touched on, I am the gratitude just sort of flows more easily. I am so thankful to be even like walking into a rehearsal room feels still very like tender and exciting to me still. And that's something that I want to cling on to even, you know, years from now. I don't want to forget how lucky I am that I get to do this for my job. And yeah, doing a dense language, obscure comedy to a limited capacity audience in masks can be hard for sure. My friend Trini Sandoval, who is in Oedipus up the hill right now, and who I met last year or 2 years ago doing 12th night, he played Sir Toby. Every time he sees me, he's like, how is it? How's it going? Do you know where all your laughs come? Let's talk about the math of the comedy, because he did Ladies Not for Burning years and years ago and is a very mathematical comedic actor. And I think because we have been working with a smaller audience, recognizing in a precise way as an actor exactly when the laughs are going to come took longer for me than it might have if we were like playing to full capacity every night, if that makes sense. Yeah. But it, you know, it was just a new way of learning on your feet. It definitely like keeps me very alive and very aware and attuned. So that's been a fun challenge too, but it's all new.
It's all good for you, Sheard?
I would just echo what they said. If I, you know, had nothing really else to add to that, because that's both of those experiences that Tyler's saying that she has and that Phoebe has sort of depends on the night. Honestly, some nights it's like, oh yeah, that's raucous. This is masks or no mask. It doesn't matter. You know, people are just living it up. And other days I'm like, is everyone okay? Like, are we, I hope we're not, I hope this isn't too much for right now. It's sort of how my actor brain goes into that mode a little bit. But I think what's clever about this little play is our tight little ending that really reveals how well everyone's listening and how much they've followed the play. So I think that sort of eases any sort of doubt that I may have, and I feel great about it. And it's so much fun.
I love reading that we have performance reports after every show. I told Tyler today, I love reading the specificity with which Jane, your stage manager, writes when the first laugh comes. They were like not, and then Tyler said, sometimes I just keep them there till Chris arrives. Like, all right, it's going to be that kind of a show. All right, folks, as you do your tight five, I'm just warming them up for the next act. But it's true. And in any comedy, regardless of the pandemic, it's different every night. That's part of what makes it wonderful. There's a props question, and then we will let you wander back to your lives, about are they actual buckles? Those of you who haven't seen it, we won't give you too much information, so we won't spoil anything. But there are costume pieces that come on and off. Are your greaves? Is that what they're called?
Yes.
Are they? Thank you. There's my vocabulary 2 for today. Euphoria? No, that's joy. What's euphonia? Euphonia.
But euphoria. Let's
Greaves,
call it
euphoria.
that.
I gotta lie down. Talk to me about the buckles. Are they real? We have a wonderful prop shop and costume craft shop, but
yeah, they did such a great job with this play because there's so many elements, and you know, anytime you have stuff like that, it's sort of we don't want it to get caught on Phoebe's fabric on her dress. So we went through. They did a great job building that.
Sarah Young popped in that they did it. We did a piece in our newsletter on Chris's costume and buckles and stuff. So check out the newsletter.
I will. Also everyone else, yes. But
also everyone else. Well, that's the time we have allotted for this discussion. Oh, it's the inside scoop. Sarah Young from the sidelines putting things in chat for us. I'm so grateful. Again, if you haven't seen the show, I think you will be charmed and delighted as we have all been. And we have a little time left to see both the streaming version, which closes when the show closes, and the live in-person version, which is the best way to watch a play. And also just to give a shout out to the play we've got up the hill. We're doing an extraordinary production of Oedipus that is playing now that we are thrilled about. And they're both, what's it from, Book of Will? They're both Greeky, although this one's Rome, that one's Greece. They both have, I think it's a pretty extraordinary ability. We're not doing rep to do two plays that are as different as this in terms of production, language, what the impact of both those plays are, to the level of accomplishment that both of these productions have achieved, that have the kind of classical illusions that they have, is so out there that you could see both these plays in a weekend. It feels like APT. That feels like APT. That you can see a production of Oedipus and a production of Phoenix Too Frequent in an afternoon with actors of your caliber and designs that are so extraordinary. I'm really thrilled, and I'm so proud of this production. That's COVID courage. Thank you, Sarah Young. What the heck? Let's just do it. I'm grateful to all of you.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see the play again. And to you, our wonderful audience, so grateful for you hanging with us all this time.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.